Okay.
Start!
42 on the bridge, please.
42.
Thank you, Maggie.
You're welcome. Jordan. DA.
It's just an ordinary apartment building in Garden Grove and just an ordinary row of garages, as you can see. But sometimes you have to be careful of what's right next door to you. For example, take a look in here. 20-year-old Rob DeArc works 7 or 8 hours a day creating frightening creatures for Halloween, or making puppets for children's shows, or working on his clown makeup. It's his own little world of fantasy.
I've been a puppeteer for 38 years, and I've done shows for the stage, I've done shows for theme parks, makeups, full prosthetic makeups, I've done all kinds of things. I think the main thing is that what I've learned in my career is that you have to be versatile and flexible. You have to be able to say, yes, I can do that. On November the 9th, 1969, I was 7 years old. My parents took me to the Bill Baird Marionette Theater in Greenwich Village on Barrow Street. And I took my feet and put them behind the seat, and I put my hands underneath the armrests and refused to leave the theater. And 2 of the puppeteers came down to look for hats and jackets, and they saw me and thought, oh, the poor kid, he's got the bug. And they made it worse. Would you like to see the backstage? Oh, of course I would. And Mr. Baird, with his cane, was talking to an adult, and he saw me out of the corner of his eye coming down the steps. And he did this to the other adult. He actually interrupted the other adult, turned around, got this close to my face, and said, what'd you think?
A puppeteer must be an author, creating original scripts, a designer, choosing colors, fabrics, and appropriate lighting to make the show look good. He or she must also be a sculptor, a painter, a costumer, a technical person backstage, and a performer on stage. Additional skills often needed are mold maker, child psychologist, and marketing consultant. A combination of all these skills can be found in Rob DeArc, the Executive Director of Kid Stuff, the Children's Performing Arts Center of California.
Every time they come out and wrote an article about my theater, they always had to mention in the article that I was the son of John DeArc of the Four Lads. That kind of wore on me for a while because I could never get out from under his orbit. But he enjoyed what I did too, and was the co-author of a lot of songs from some of my shows and some of my Pip and Squeak shows.
Sunset shining down on a silent sea. That's what you are to me.
In 1970, my dad wrote a song called It's Great to Be Alive. It was about me when I was 5 years old, which would have set that in 1967. So it took him either 3 years to write it, or it took him 3 years to think of writing it.
Waste your time now while you can. Before you know, you'll be a man.
But it's also 5 rhymes with alive, so that's probably why he chose to write it about me when I was 5. And I have it framed on my wall, and I like to point out to my sister that he wrote a song about her too, but it didn't sell. So I'm the one song that he wrote that actually sold. So the Pike Place Market is the oldest continuously operating market in the United States. It's 112 years old, and a lot of it has been renovated over the years, but a lot of it is still really, really old. The market crafters have been here since the 70s, and basically we have roll call in the morning, we get our spots, we pick our spots, we set up, so we get 4 feet of space. It's a kind of spendy real estate, but there's 15 million people a year that come through here from all over the world. So if I sit completely still in my booth, the world comes to me, and I didn't have to invent a better mousetrap. I just had to bring my pop-up puppets. I wanted to go for a style that was going to be mine and mine alone, and I went for going for an asymmetry that was a planned asymmetry, so that as the head turned, it would change expression. Asymmetrical puppetry became a study of mine for quite some time, and then I wrote an article about it in the Puppetry Journal, and it sort of got some attention. And that's when I met Heather Henson. In fact, she took one of my workshops at the National Puppetry Festival. Punch and Judy show, Mr. Punch was on my left hand, which was always my endurance hand, and the other characters were on my right hand. And when Punch and Mr. Scaramouche got into an argument, Punch used the slapstick. I've got a slapstick right back here. I might as well use it. Punch used the slapstick. Well, let's try that again. Punch used the slapstick, knocked his head off. I don't know why people think Punch and Judy is violent. Usually when I make a model, I make it out of Super Sculpey, which is an oven-baked clay. And this is how the model looks. I paint it with a white gesso. It was done in 2 pieces. That's the inside of the head, and this is the outside of the head. That's how it moves. And then there were smaller pieces for the fins and for the back fin. And then you can see the pattern is very similar to the salmon right here behind me. Whenever I do a parade puppet, I take into a lot of consideration the weight, how it's going to move, and who's going to be wearing it. There's a tip jar in his lower jaw. They don't have to sing opera, you can make them sing whatever you want. I like to make them lip sync to music, particularly old Motown tunes, because I got the choreography down. They have no legs, but they can boogie. So let's say you're walking down the street and somebody comes up, it's a kind of a grouchy person and they're heading your way, you go like this, and they either smile or they get out of your way. Either way, you win. I'm hoping that the pop-up puppet will eventually be another branch of puppetry. There's hand puppets, rod puppets, marionette, shadow puppets, costume puppets, and I would like to see the pop-up puppet become its own category because it's so simple and easy to make, but you can get so complicated with it. It's really a gateway drug to puppetry.
So Parkinson's disease is first and foremost a neurological disorder. And it is a progressive neurological disorder which causes problems with movement. It can cause tremors, stiffness, and slowness. And this is mostly due to a decrease in dopamine in the brain.
Everything in my life has been towards subtle, well-contained movements of my hands. When I was studied with Yang Feng, I learned how to keep this finger straight and do this kind of boxing motion and do all this subtlety with very little movement in the hand and keeping everything sturdy and straight. And I can't do this with my left hand anymore. Is like, what is the most ironic thing you could do to a puppeteer? I know, well, take his ability to manipulate things gently and carefully. It's intermittent, so some days it's worse than others, and sometimes during the day it's worse than others. But I've had this medication now for a while, and it seems to be mostly controlling it. It was when I started out, I couldn't even roll my shirt down or tie my shoes. It's not a small thing, it's a major thing. It's just how I handle it and what way I choose to move forward. And I want to do more teaching. I want to use the opportunity to be a spokesperson for Parkinson's in a way that is positive and learn more about that. I think I want to give a feeling of hope to people who have a sudden onset of something that changes their lives, that it doesn't mean that your life is over. It means that you have to be adaptive and fluid and be able to move in a new direction. And I think that that's been my whole career. If you're in this for the money, you're in the wrong profession. This has to be a calling, like a monastery, something that you have to do because if you didn't do it, you wouldn't feel like you were being fulfilled. So the reason I love puppetry is it incorporates all the arts. It incorporates dance and movement and theater and mime and costuming and set design and everything. And I'm interested in everything. So this is the one thing I can do that encompasses it all.
That is really cute.
I've been making them here at the market 15 years. I make all kinds of other things too. These Green Man plaques. I make pop-up puppets that are pins that you can wear like jewelry. They go up and down just the same way as the other ones do, except that you can pin them on a blouse. I mean, I could make it without my eyes. I could make it without walking. There's all kinds of things I could do and continue to be a puppeteer. But once your hands start shaking and you can't control it, that's ironic. And if that makes the universe chug along, well, I'm happy I gave it some fuel. But I think that the main epiphany is that the game isn't over for me yet. I have all of this information behind me that I can pass forward. And there must be ways to do that, and that's what I'm hoping to do with this documentary.
The primary research at this time is to try to find a neuroprotective treatment, meaning a treatment that could potentially slow down, even stop the progression of Parkinson's disease. And that's where research is headed currently. And there are lots of trials that are going on to determine if the compounds of the drugs they're studying can in fact slow the disease progression. How do you catch it early and then give a medication that can stop or slow the progression to such an extent that there is minimal or no impairment in quality of life? Rob is an artist, and he's a puppeteer, and he's very well known, and he's very good at what he does, and we need patient advocates for Parkinson's disease. So we are hoping that when the word gets out, that it's going to generate interest, and it's going to attract philanthropists who may want to support the cause, while we are looking for that holy grail to find the treatment or the cure that can stop the disease in its tracks. We still must treat patients effectively, and there are clinical needs that are unmet, and that's absolutely critical that we work towards those as a community. You know, we raise awareness, we also raise the funds that is required to treat people effectively.
Well, there's a part in the bridge of the song It's Great to Be Alive where he says, how I envy you, my son, 'cause you've got time to get nothing done. And I can see where, in my dad's perspective, that what I do is something that is nothing, but but it's something that's filled up my every waking hour for years and years. And so I think I do have the time to get something done, not nothing. So we'll see how it goes.
What you gonna do today? How you gonna spend your time? What you gonna do today? Maybe learn a nursery rhyme. Climb a fence and tear your pants. Try to drown a bunch of ants. What a time when you're only 5. It's great to be alive. How I envy you, my son. You got time to get nothing done. You don't know about hate and war. Your world is a candy store. Oh, what a time when you're only 5. It's great to be alive.